Welcome to What Works, where nonprofit leaders share real stories about what makes impact possible and their organizations thrive. Because success has patterns, and often those patterns aren't found in the boardroom, they're found in the field. I'm your host, Marla Moody, and today we're going to explore how to really listen to those you serve and to work well with the other organizations in order to serve your community well. My guest, Rich, is World Changers Optimizer, a warrior monk. He runs a homeless shelter in rural Oklahoma. He's also a former Army military artillery captain. He's distinguished in Toastmasters and an author of Hero Quest. With over 23 years of serving those in poverty, Rich brings both heart and strategy to serve the homeless through collaboration that helps people without harming them, to listen to them who they really are in order to serve people well. So get ready. Rich is here to show us what works. Welcome, Rich.
Oh, thank you for having me here today. Glad to be part of all this.
That's great. Well, if you would kind of give the audience just a bit of an understanding of what is it you do, where are you located, just people have, and also let people get acquainted to your voice.
All right. Well, I run a homeless shelter in Muskogee, Oklahoma, and it's rural homelessness versus urban homelessness. There's a pretty big difference there. But a lot of the processes and a lot of the systems are going to be very similar. And so what we do here is we invite our folks in. We serve everyone who shows up. We're not screening them out in any way, with the exception of because we serve families, we legally cannot serve level 3 sex offenders. So we can't allow them in. But everybody else we're going to serve and care for when they show up. And we're not asking a lot of questions beyond what's your name, and then try to get their story as much as they're willing to share with us. The truth is that they're not going to share their true story with me on day one. It's just not going to happen. They have reasons not to trust. And so we take a lot of time to get to know them. A lot of people want to solve the homelessness like yesterday and want to just badger people or chase them into some housing program or a work program or something else. And we just find that that doesn't work long term. We've got to get to know them. So everything in our processes here at the Gospel Rescue Mission Oklahoma is to get to know them, and then we direct them to services as appropriate, whatever their needs are. Maybe they do need work now, so we're going to help direct them to a work focused program, or maybe they are ready for housing. They've worked through mental illness or addiction. We're going to send them to those different places. But it all starts with getting to know the people you're serving and not assuming you know their problems right out of the gate.
Right. Sounds like every person is unique and different, and you want to serve them that way.
Yeah. And the idea comes from, I think I had read it in Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I read a lot, so sometimes my references get confused. But I had read it in one, I think it was in the 7 Habits book, where he talks about people trying to solve problems without really finding out what it was like. And he gave this picture of if I go to an eye doctor and I walk in and they do all the little tests and they do all that. And then the doctor takes their glasses off and hands them to me. The odds of me having their same prescription are pretty low, and it may not work for me. He's going to go, well, it works for me. Why wouldn't it work for you? And then the doctor might say,
Yes.
well, just try a little harder to make those glasses work for you. Or maybe try it running in place. He has like all these different silly illustrations of how it's just not going to work. And I think a lot of times, whether you are a professional working with those who are homeless or just somebody who just has compassion for them, we all try to solve the problem the way we would want it solved. But each of these are individuals. And it takes a
So
long
true.
time to break through the barriers to get through this place of trust. And then they actually share the real problems with you. And so what we call our whole system is a roots base. We seek to find the roots of their challenges. And then we help them develop their plan. It has to be their plan. It can't be my plan. I usually have a plan, but I got to help them develop their plan to help them go forward.
That's great. I would love to start with, how did you get into this? It's one thing to go and, give someone $1 as you're passing them on the street. It's a whole nother thing to kind of hone your life around it?
23 years ago, I took a short-term job working at a shelter in Washington State. It was just gonna be a stopgap till I got a real job, and I took a
Mhm.
position as an overnight, staff member of a shelter, for women and children, which, to be honest with you, as a man, it was actually scarier for that than when as I was in the military stepping into potential combat situations. Being left alone with, at that point, 35 to 40 women, all by myself was a little scary. A lot of things could go wrong. I could make a lot of mistakes. I was still young, and I knew I could make foolish mistakes. So, but I stepped into that thinking it was just my temporary gig. But over dinner, eating meals with the women and the children who were there, I just fell in love with them all. I wanted them to succeed, and I saw the potential in their success. And so as time went along, I decided I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I went to my supervisor and said, "I'd like to have your job someday." And she didn't fire me on the spot. She was very secure. She wasn't worried about me, trying to derail her. So that worked out pretty well for me. But she started helping me go to conferences, recommended books. Boundaries, Henry Cloud's book on boundaries helped out a whole lot in that season. That Seven Habits book I referred to earlier, that helped out in that season. But she also set me up to talk to other agencies, people doing similar work, not exactly the same, but similar enough that I could learn different styles, different ways of communicating. I went to the Bridges Out of Poverty, the AHA processes. I learned a lot from their program. So she just really helped build me up into this. And again, the more I do this, the more I get to know these men and women, the more I want to help them, the more I want to see them succeed and believe that they can succeed. There's a
Yeah.
General Patton quote. I'm probably going to butcher it. I can't remember exactly how it's worded, but it says that you can't pass on what you don't believe in. I actually believe they can succeed, even if they are mentally ill. They might have to live in a group home, or they might have to have some sort of special care around them to be managing things. But they can be of benefit to our society. And just over time, I picked that up. While I was doing that for a season, they started a new shelter and they put me on the roughest streets of Spokane, Washington. It was the red light district. I literally had Hell's Angels Clubhouse on one side of my facility, a hardcore liquor store. They didn't sell beer, they just sold hardcore liquor on the other side, a brothel on the other end. And behind me, I had two different drug houses selling methamphetamine primarily. And I'm in the middle of all this. And I'm kind of a little oasis serving these women and the children, and it was hard. You watch them fail. You're enduring relapses. I remember one lady. She had been doing so well, but she had come across some methadone, street methadone. It wasn't the legal side of things. Somebody had pocketed it. I don't know how they got it, but she had gotten a hold of it, and she overdosed on the street.
Mm.
And like I said, it was a rough neighborhood. So for her to be on the streets and then to be in a coma for 3 days after that was really just, it highlighted my need. I need to get more intense into my connection with them. I can't just look the other way when they're starting to relapse. I have to look for the triggers, call them out when they see the triggers, and have these tough conversations before. I mean, some ways she was fortunate that somebody nice came along and helped her get her to the ambulance and get her to the hospital. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been with us any longer after that. Help these people now because I don't have tomorrow. I don't have that promise.
Right. And, it's I love that the sincerity and the organicness of it, but I kinda wanna go back because I saw something I'm hearing something in you that I heard about that first, director that you were under, is you said she didn't get threatened, she actually helped you. She saw your desire and, developed you or gave you the path of development in order to fulfill that passion of yours. And what I'm hearing with how you do with people is you're listening to them and believing in them. So as a leader, there's times when we can feel threatened by people with passion or, kind of like, "I'm gonna take your job done" day could it really could have fired you right there, right?
Right.
So, the idea of leadership being something that believes and empowers rather than feels threatened and tries to keep people under.
Yeah,
And
the
it
tide
sounds
raises
like
all
that has.
ships. If they
Say
rise
that
up, the whole
again?
community rises up.
Right. So it's not the leader needs to stay outside of it, it's the leader believing that raising everybody else up is going to help everybody. That's,
Exactly.
uh that's profound, but I want to underline that because I worked in Central Asia a lot, and that with the Soviet mindset, is that if I have a piece of pie, that means there's less for you. And I
Right.
see that kind of, uh, mindset here that, like, if you're taken care of or given or helped, that means I can't get helped. Instead of, if this person's helped, they're gonna help others around them. So there really is something about society helping each other out that makes everybody better.
Yeah. One of the stories that I came across, was in 1947 to 1949, there were 0 homeless. You could not find a homeless person in Paris, France. And it was pretty amazing that they pulled this off. So they ended homelessness in a major metropolis. That whole urban homelessness is just mind blowing. And one of the efforts was, that they empowered the homeless to go out and help other homeless. And so uh, they
Ah,
would find, artifacts, and, they look like, jars and bottles, and they repurpose them, way ahead of the time. We kinda do that now. My wife loves to go to the thrift store and find something that somebody would have thrown away and make it something phenomenal. Well, this Catholic priest just kinda ordained this and put this together, so they would get the funding, from their own efforts, and then they would reach down and help the people who were still homeless, maybe still in addiction, whatever their challenges were. And, in about 1950, he had no homeless left because they're not gonna have anybody to serve. What am I gonna do? Because if they don't have anybody to serve, they're gonna go right back to their old behaviors. And, so he actually went to India to recruit people to come be homeless in Paris, and I don't know, that's kind of a hard sell. He didn't succeed at that, and, 5 years later, the homeless are back in Paris. So it is important to
interesting.
empower them to go and serve other people. Almost every day at our community meeting, I have a moment in that meeting where I said, there's still people camping out there who could come in. They don't have to be homeless. Why don't you go out and talk to them? They're not going to listen to me, but they might just listen to you because they saw you on the streets with them a month ago, 6 months ago, whatever the time frame was. So you can go talk to them, and I sometimes give them some lines to use, some direction on how to have that conversation. But most of them have that kind of under the wraps. They know how to do that. So they
Yeah.
go out and they try to bring them in.
As many good stories there are, I'm sure you do see heartbreaking stories. Um, how do you care for yourself and how do you care for your staff so that you can, and I'm not even going to use the word guard your heart because I don't even think that's right, but how do you stay emotionally and physically healthy when you're working with victory but also you know people slipping back into their old ways?
Well, there's no doubt that there's more heartbreak than there is victory. Addiction takes a long time for people to break. Managing and even overcoming mental illness takes a long time. And it's a roller coaster ride. It's not okay. They're clean today and they're going to be clean the rest of their life. It's a roller coaster ride. So we do need to purposely take time away. So I will. I actually bought property, with woods in it, with trees around. I love to walk through the woods. There's a Japanese principle of, they call it, forest showering. So you kind of walk through the forest, and it's just the nature being out there in God's creation, just breathing in the air and the sunlight or the moonlight. I even like to go out when it's nighttime, and just walk through the woods and be part of all that. I also take care of my personal, disciplines of exercise and trying to eat right, and um, you know reading healthy, materials, not just go home and watching TV because I'm tired. Television's fine, but it's not what's going to rejuvenate me and strengthen me. So I do all those things,
Mhm.
and I have a group of men, particularly that I hang around with, who encourage me, inspire me. There's some hard days where I just want to quit, and so I step away and get with those guys, and they say, "Oh, you know what? You got this. You can do it. Let's." And they rejuvenate me and do all that. I'm also a man of faith, so I do spend a great deal of time in prayer, reading scriptures, those sort of things. We do have a faith-based. We are a faith-based organization, so I do have our staff. They also spend time in prayer and meditation, doing all those things. But I do require them to take vacations. I don't allow anybody to be on call for more than 2 weeks. Usually, it's just 1 week, but every once in a while, for vacations or different things, somebody might be on longer. I don't allow it to go longer than 2 weeks, no matter what. And a lot of times, I will step in and be on call just so nobody else has to deal with the overnight chaos of a shelter.
Yeah.
But I have to
And,
require the vacation. If I didn't require the vacation, they would not take it.
yeah. Well, that I see that, in nonprofit a lot, at to our peril, right? Because there is a passion, because the need never stops. It's not like a dam where you can shut it off and go. I mean, the flow of need is always there. And sometimes we kinda maybe think too much of ourselves, right? Of that we are needed, rather than the privilege of serving. So I love that you require them to take time off. What other ways do you encourage them to stay healthy, so that they can keep fighting the fight?
Well, I do share with them the ideas of taking care of your body, your mind, uh, all the things that I do as my personal disciplines. I encourage them in that direction. They have portion of their every year they have a choice of either using for their some money budgeted aside for each individual to say, I want to use this for personal training, for health, whether it's vitamins or nutrients of some kind. It could be medicine if they happen to need that, dental care, whatever it is. It's just a blanket amount of money. They can use it to go to a conference. I want to go to this conference. And they have they can go to the conference and do that. So it's a budget item that we have installed in our organization to help make that happen.
Yeah. As you have looked past the last 23 years, um, what would be something that you might have done differently, knowing what you know now, if you could go back? Something that maybe we could learn from.
Well, I would replay almost every conversation, and I think of the ones that I did wrong, and I would love to take some of those back. I would have taken some more vacations earlier on in this whole process.
Mm,
There was at least 2 different stages where, I actually got to a very dark place. I was like, I'm not helping anybody, just you feel like you're wasting your time. Uh, so I would have taken more vacations in that season, particularly when I was living in Washington State, Idaho. The lake region was, like, right there. I could have gotten away very easily, and it wouldn't have been that it wouldn't I wouldn't even have to take a whole week. I could have just taken a couple days and completely got away. Then also for my
yeah,
children's sake, uh, I'll tell you, we go on vacations, and we run into the homeless. They're everywhere. Every city we would go to,
right.
there's someone there, and I would stop and visit with them, and for
Yep.
to the detriment of my children. And they still kind of have this, Dad. We were supposed to be on vacation, just having a good time going to the beach, but you spent 15 minutes talking to that guy. We lost 15 minutes of beach time. Uh, At the time, it felt like the right thing to do, but looking back, I should have said hi to them, not ignore them completely, but said, "You know what? I'm on vacation right now, but you do matter," and just kept going. So
Yeah.
I think I definitely hurt my family by not ignoring them a little bit.
I appreciate you bringing light of that, because you're not alone in that by any stretch. Um, I have a friend whose dad was a pastor, and the congregation would call up and they're like, "Where's your dad?" And she's like, "I don't know. You see him more than I do. You tell me where he is." And there's some truth to that of caring for your family, but when you see your passion of caring for like you, the homeless, wherever our passion is coming from, you can't not see it, right?
Right.
And also almost the freedom to say, and it's time to not, like you said, not, still acknowledge them or whatever, but the freedom to take those breaks. As nonprofit people, if there's one thing, to be honest, if there's one thing, I would say it's that. Because when we start getting burned out, like you mentioned, it's a dark place. And I know for me, I was overseeing a region in Central Asia, and I heard myself say, like, we were in a conversation figuring out schedules, and I heard myself in my mind say, "Why am I the only one sacrificing?" And for me, that was my wake up call. Um, bec when I said I it be so that was enough for me to go, "What do I need to shift to start caring for myself?" Because n that really should never be what comes out of your mouth, 'cause it leads to a dark road. So, I want everybody to hear that it's okay to take care of yourself. So
And I've been doing this long enough to watch, particularly people in nonprofits. They go from agency to agency, thinking that that's going to fix their burnout rate. And if they haven't fixed that internal issue of it's okay for me to step away, it's okay for me to have a
yeah,
home and go back to my house and have a refrigerator with food. It's okay, and I want that for those people
yes.
too. It's not I'm not better than them, but I do need to accept that that's okay. Now, for a long time, I felt guilty because I have a garage, so I have a home for my car. And there's people who are living on the street. I literally would go home and just kick myself thinking, "This is wrong. I should not have a garage."
That
That garage
survivor's
enables me to get to
guilt's
work
what.
faster because I don't have to scrape the
Yeah.
windows in the winter, uh,
Yeah,
and
that's
I
an
get past
interesting
that.
point is, um yeah, it's okay to have, as long you're using your stuff well or whatever, but that's that guilt, when we're motivated more by guilt or more by the shoulds than we are by passion and compassion, um, it means we're doing it in our own efforts,
Right,
and that goes south really fast.
definitely.
You mentioned, Rich, the idea that you work with a lot of different organizations, because you bring people in, you figure out what they need, and which I want to talk a little bit more about the kind of questions you ask or how to position yourself for that. But you also know that there's other organizations out there that could help an individual's journey. Tell me about, like, how you find people, how you vet maybe other organizations, just that whole process of working with other organizations.
It is a matter of getting to know them, the individual within that agency. It's really nice when the same person stays in that agency for a while. You can really get to know them and kind of know what their strengths are. And every agency has a strength and a focus. They're not necessarily good or bad, but they may or may not be the right fit for the people I'm working with. So I need to find those right people. Even if we have an agency in town that uh, I don't agree with 90% of what they do, but they will help a percentage of my folks. So we will refer them over when that's appropriate. And we'll get to know, again, we know the person, we know what the agency, and then we kind of do a matchmaking introduction. We don't just say, go call them. We may have them call with us in the room if they feel like they have the strength to make that call. But we want to do that personal invitation and introduction as much as we possibly can. But it takes time. You have to go to a lot of meetings that seem pointless, which is why I think COVID was so difficult because you're doing Zoom meetings with these folks and you don't have the little side meetings. The side meetings to me were much
Mhm.
more powerful than whatever the formal agenda thing was. It was, we're taking a break during this meeting and I can go talk to, um, you know, the Dr. Rogers from this place or Missy from that place or Joe from that. I can talk to those individuals and find out more of the heart behind their agency. Whatever their website says, that might give you a clue, but not always. It's more marketing when it comes to those things. But to know their real heart, this is what their direction is, what they want to accomplish. And so it takes that same amount of time to help the individual as to find out the right agencies to help them out. And to realize I'm not the only show in town. I don't have to do it all. We'll have people come to we'll have donors actually show up and say, well, you should be doing this. Like, well, we love to do that, but this other agency is doing that same thing, and they're doing mighty fine doing that. In our community, we have Goodwill, who does a great job on work training. So we have a version of it to prepare them for that, for those who are not quite ready. But Goodwill is going to be my go-to for anybody who wants job training. And they just have so much more resources, and they have a great program and real life experience they can give them beyond what I can do. Why would I create my own program? I think it's one of the
Yeah.
challenges I see in a lot of the nonprofit world is we try to recreate everything for ourselves. We have 4 or 5 different addiction recovery programs. And it's all because, well, we got to do it our way. Our way is the only good way.
Yes. Yeah, I really like you mentioning that. A couple things hit me. I did interview, Kim Lewis, who is with Goodwill down in East Texas, and she mentioned that when you are donor-based, when a lot of what happens comes from those who give, and they have passion, sometimes we actually, um chase their dreams instead of, being solid with what we do. And so, yeah, sticking to what's good, but also knowing, it's a yes and. It's not saying that's not good to do. It's just saying we're good at this and we're going to partner with someone else who's good at that. And I would wonder if, the more we could stay on call and task, and you see the big picture of serving serving the community, in partnership, and not watering down your program just because, someone saw a need and kind of expected you to do it.
Right. That happens often. We get a lot of pressure to have our own mental health pieces. I thought, well, there's a lot of great organizations. There's 4 directly that I always work with. And so why would I pay a counselor? And that's a huge budget item. You figure out the insurance behind that and the actual cost of someone who has a master's degree or higher, when I can just partner with somebody else. And so if you have a big rock and it takes 100 whacks with a sledgehammer to break that rock, uh, which one gets the credit? Number 100 gets the credit. Everybody applauds number 100, but without the other 99, it didn't happen. And so when we're working with these folks, it doesn't matter. I might be hit number 3 or 5 before it actually does the service. And so that other agency maybe gets credit for it. They get to have the good feel story. They came to us and look, we fixed them. But truly, it was a combination of all of us. It was all of us
Hmm.
working together to make that happen.
So, Rich, what would you want to tell, the generous donors that really do fund a lot of the social work out there? What would you want to tell them to kind of see a bigger picture?
I would say go visit that organization. Go walk through the walls. I'll just look at their website. The website should have good information, probably some basic concepts, but walk with them. Go see what they're doing. Get to know the people that they're serving. Get to know the heart behind it. A lot of times we just blindly fund as well. They had they're evidence based, so they must be good. Well, they may or may not be using the right evidence, or they might be skewing the evidence. It's hard to say, but when you get to know them, I'm really a big believer in a roots based approach to serving people. And if you don't get to the root of it, those issues that weren't taken care of are going to pop back up. And so that's why I
Mhm.
have challenges with just do this,
Right.
just do work or just do housing. And that might be the right time for them doing that. So, but find out what their focus is. And for us, it's the
Yeah.
roots. If they are housing and you say, okay, well, we're going to help, we agree that housing's our number one thing. So that if that's your passion as a donor, go with them. Uh, but if you really want to get to the roots, we're going to be your place.
Yeah. And you mentioned that it takes a long it takes trust, building trust with an individual. I mean, I'm sure them just coming through your door, there's a fear factor that someone has to get over. And then they're gonna tell a story, and that original story's not gonna have all the true elements in it. What are ways that you build trust with those individuals so that they're willing to tell you more of the things that get you to the root of the cause? 'Cause I those are hard things, like, even in a safe environment, voicing those things to another individual is really hard. So, what are ways that you kinda bridge that gap?
Well, first of all, it starts with being curious, and
Mm,
not making an assumption when they walk in. They may dress a certain way, or they may walk a certain way, and so you're making some judgments. Some of that's based on past experiences. So Susie walked this way, and she had addiction, so he's walking that way. He must have an addiction. That might be true, but it may not be. So you don't make those assumptions, but you get curious. What's going on? What's your story? What made you be in this position where you came to see us? And in initial meetings, early meetings, I can usually tell that they're not telling me the truth. It's a given. I understand you're probably not going to be telling me the truth, and I'm not going to jump all over them early on. Now, as that relationship builds, there'll come a point where I will ask them and I will challenge their story, and I
mm,
try to do that very softly. Say, well, you said this, but you also said this. Which one of those two might be true? And sometimes it is an and. Sometimes both were true. This was true a year ago, and this is true now. But most of the time, they're just confused. And now that they trust, maybe they will tell me the true story. And to keep being
yeah,
curious, though, and keep going after it, and not jumping to conclusions. And one other piece of that is not giving advice right away. I'm really
yes,
tempted. I got the answer. All you got to do is do this, and you're going to be good to go. I hold back a lot of advice that probably would not be received well anyway. Unsolicited advice is generally rejected out the gate. So get curious about it. Don't give advice right away. But there will come a
yeah,
point if they ask for that advice, I might direct them to an agency. We have if they have a health concern, I'll say, maybe talk to this lawyer or this or to this doctor, or if they have legal issues to this lawyer, uh, because I have a relation with that lawyer, so I can know that they might be a good fit. But I'm not jumping there right away. I'm going to listen to their story and get curious about the little pieces. And it is hard
mhm,
to follow. I do want to, for those who are trying to do this, they're telling stories, and sometimes it's mixed with real life. Sometimes it's mixed with movies and television. Sometimes it's they're telling stories that their parents told. Sometimes the people that characters in their story are no longer with us. They passed away many years ago, but they're talking about them like if they're really there. And then there's the mental illness piece that you have to take into consideration. But it's mostly just listening and nodding, and from time to time you'll share a little piece of your story. Uh, you don't want to make it about you, but something that might make them more comfortable to share. I share with a lot of
yeah.
my folks. I had an addiction for about 5 years. It was ruining my life, but I came out of that, and this is what I did to get out of it. But it's mostly listening to their story and not making it about me.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting balance because if you don't share anything, then there is, there's a natural power differential anyway. But then when it's like, I'm perfect and you're not, but you don't want to make it about you. So I think it's sharing with the idea of what is helpful to share for the benefit of the other person rather than what do I want to share because I like to, you know, because I want to be the center. So I love that idea. If people would want to kind of help out in their communities with, honestly, the homeless population is a challenge in many places. What can people do, or what would you suggest when they want to help their community out? Um, how would you get them started, or what would ideas would you give them?
I would start with going to the agencies who are already doing the work. Go out and talk to the food banks, the shelters, the mental health agencies, not necessarily the for-profit variations, but those who are working with the poor and the homeless. Get to know those agencies and work through and with those agencies, because you could come in and you could bring them a meal. Uh, but I do, when people do bring a meal, I say, if you're going to get them a sandwich, get two sandwiches, and you give them a sandwich and you have a sandwich and you sit down to eat with them. Don't just come on to throw sandwiches around. That's not really going to
Mm,
be that helpful. Because if you do that, they'll be fed for today, but they're going to be back tomorrow and the day after that. A local business owner said he just had this whim one day. He had found $100 in the parking lot, and he gave it to a guy who was homeless coming into his place of business when he was opening up one morning. And he said that guy was out there every day for a week wanting more money.
yeah,
He was very
because
angry and
yeah.
frustrated. I said, well, if you would have given that $100 to us, we would have fed him for, about 30 days, as we feed about $3 a day for our meals. We could have gotten to know him and have a relationship with him, or you could have used that $100 yourself and gone out and had a meal with him, maybe over a course of several weeks, and done that. But it's time that's the real power of all this. We have
Mm,
a a picture in our head that we do here at the mission is truth, grace, and time. Those are the three things. So we have to talk truth. That drug you're taking is going to eventually kill you, and we love you too much to let you just keep going down that road. Grace says, we're going to give you a chance. We're going to listen to your story and believe what you're telling us, but then we're going to take time. And so if you get those three components into anything you do, it's going to be powerful. But you're not going to be able to do that alone. That's why you need to get connected with an agency that's already doing the work.
that's great. I have a friend who, puts in fact, they're actually on the table right now, that she calls them blessing bags, and she does a few different non-perishable foods and a little thing of water, and the list of where the homeless shelters are, food banks are in the city, um, and, sometimes a gift card or something like that, and so she's knows the people on the different corners because it's the pattern of driving, and hands those out, asks the name, things like that. What are those, for someone who's just busy, a mom going to work, or a dad going to work, a mom taking kids to school, um, h are those types of things helpful if you're asking their name and looking them in the eye? Certainly not as good as sitting I love the idea of sitting down and having the sandwich with them.
Yeah, I would say a lot of those you're keeping them from coming in and getting the actual services. So you gave them the list of where those services are, but if they got that meal, they don't have a relationship, they're not going to go check into a place. As long as they're getting fed, and we have a young man who he was getting a great deal of money panhandling, and he would never come in, but his addiction was killing him. And eventually he couldn't even go out to the street corners because his addiction was just too much. So he couldn't come out of his hotel room and he couldn't make money because he just couldn't come out of the motel room. And people were paying for that motel room and they were keeping him from actually getting services. And what a lot of those people did, they have a good heart. I don't judge their heart for wanting to give those blessing bags or cash and whatever it might be, clothing. I mean, he had an unbelievable amount of clothing, food, most of it going to waste. Uh, but what they didn't know is that they were keeping him from his mother as well. His mother loved him, wanted him back, but as long as he was in his addiction, she couldn't have him in her home. She had told me on the phone that she had to call the police on him because when he was high, he was violent, and she never
Mhm.
wanted to make that call again. So she has resolved, when he is sober, I will welcome him in my home. But as long as people are taking care of stuff on the corner, just giving quick handouts, he wasn't coming in to get services. And it's only when people got frustrated with him that he actually got some recovery help. And we're on that roller coaster ride with him right now. He finally got clean of meth. Still working on some other things, but he's been a roller coaster ride, and he's had some physical issues
Wow.
now because of the long term of meth. But if he gets
Yeah.
completely clean, I'll be able to turn him back over to his mother, and that would be like the greatest blessing of my life is watch his mother reunited with her baby boy.
Yeah. Yeah, she's keeping herself safe, but still loves her son. So what would you, I mean, and honestly, what do you suggest to us who see the panhandler on the corner? Because there is that. um, that tug of saying, "I wanna help." But it sounds like the way a lot of us are helping might be doing more harm than good.
Uh, I say the biggest thing is just to look them in the eyes. Don't give them anything, but acknowledge their existence. Getting to know their name, shake their hand if you know if they come up to the window. Be polite and respectful. Don't be derogatory. But several years ago, I went out with some of our folks and we did a reverse panhandling where we were handing out resumes. So they dressed up, they got cleaned up, and they went out. Stood in the same corner they had been panhandling on, and they were handing out resumes. And I was out there with them. We were only out for about 45 minutes. But during that 45 minutes, people would deliberately not look at them. And as I'm with
Mm,
them, I'm feeling like all these people are deliberately looking away from me. And I was feeling less than. I was feeling kind of moving toward a dark place just from those 45 minutes of people feeling so disgusted they didn't want to look at me. That I started to acknowledge what they were feeling if they're out there for hours at a time. So what I realized that day is we got to look them in the eye, acknowledge their humanity, share with them that you care about them and you want the best for them. If you can gather the information on where they can go for real help, share that information. A lot of shelters will have a little card. We have a little services card that we hand out. So this is when you can check in, the sort of services you can expect, and we're waiting for you. We actually have a little
yep,
booklet we put together on our website that's kind of a smart book out of homelessness. And so it has a lot of tips. And you can go to our website and you can download that. We got it on there for free. And you can download it, update. It's got some community information in there. So you just change the community information to acknowledge your community and share that
yep.
booklet with them.
I'll definitely put that in the show notes. So because we want to, my goal is that we're making good choices, we're empowering people, not shaming of what we should have done in the past, but moving forward, how to work together. So, Rich, I really have enjoyed this time. Thank you for coming on. I look forward to hearing more, and we will, I hope, keep in touch. So,
Thank you so much for
thank
having me
you.
today.